Let's get right to the interview segment. He just released a new book, Killing Crazy Horse. Welcome back to the host of No Spin News and my good friend Bill O'Reilly. Bill, you are a prolific writer. Killing series has been fantastic. I'll be honest with you. I started reading the book last night. I want to talk to you about it. Some things I wanted for you to explain to me. I want to do that in 1 second. Bill, let's talk about, I think, the story, at least of this part of the campaign, that Jeffrey Goldberg at The Atlantic is using unnamed sources to call out Donald Trump, saying that he said that some military personnel who were dead or captured were losers. Your thoughts on using unnamed sources in a story this important?
Well, I think it's a scandal. I think The Atlantic magazine is a piece of garbage. I mean, it's owned by Lorraine Jobs, who in June donates $610,000 to the Biden campaign. She hires a guy named Jeffrey Goldberg, who has been hating Donald Trump for, I guess, ever since Donald Trump was a famous person. The guy, if you go down what the Atlantic has done, President Trump has done one good thing in his 3.5 years in office, according to the Atlantic magazine. So then it comes out with a story that says, according to 4 sources with firsthand knowledge of the situation. That's how they quoted it. Well, if you had an anonymous source that heard the president say these terrible things, wouldn't you say, according to a source who heard the president directly say these things, wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, you do. And you taught me, Bill, listen, if the audience doesn't know, I used to fill in for Bill at Fox for some 200 plus shows. And you taught me that when you're reading a story, and it's very important, whether it's the New York Times, the Atlantic, wherever, watch carefully how these reporters talk about their sources. A lot of times it tips off who these people may be. Am I right?
Listen, I don't know what firsthand knowledge means. Do you?
Well,
you know
I assume it means I heard it directly.
No, they would have said that. They would have said, according to a source who heard the president say it. They didn't. So that means it was not someone in the room, because there are only 4 people in the room. And Bolton says it didn't happen. Sarah Huckabee says it didn't happen. So
yeah, but Bill, what about this one? What about this one? Another one of our former colleagues, Jennifer Griffin, says she's got also a name, but she also has a couple of sources that say it did happen.
No, but that's not exactly what Jennifer said. So I went over this on the No Spin News last night in micro detail. That's my newscast every night, and I hope people will sample it. Jennifer Griffin is an honest reporter and an excellent person. I think you would agree. I used her, and I never doubted what she told me to be true. But Jennifer herself did not frame the story properly. Okay, your sources, are they the same sources that Atlantic used, Jennifer? Do you know what sources Atlantic used? Maybe it's the same people.
Because Bill, at one point, I agree with you. Jennifer Griffin is one of the best reporters on the street and a good person as well. At one point, she said, my sources, and she doubled down. She said, my sources are unimpeachable, number one. And she also said, if you caught this, and I listened, like you say, listen, she said, these are sources that are not unknown to the president, and he knows. Now, why can't we figure out who this person is and go right at him and say, General Kelly, was it you? Did you say this? Or whomever it could be?
Obviously, Trump thinks it was Kelly. That's clear. All right. But for Jennifer Griffin, I don't know if she used the same sources that the Atlantic magazine used, because Jennifer would not know who Atlantic magazine used. They're not going to tell her. She works for Fox. So it could be she's doing the same thing that the Atlantic did. And you got to define, I never use anonymous sources, ever, in a factual presentation, ever. All right? And that's my training at CBS News, ABC News. You couldn't do it back then. Now you can do it all day long. But if you do use it, you have to define it. So I don't know what Jennifer Griffin is confirming. Is she confirming a rumor somebody heard?
You know, that's a problem. That's a problem with anonymous sources. It literally comes down to almost gossip. Just one step above gossip, and you have to really trust the people are saying. I trust Griffin. I don't know Jeffrey Goldberg. You know, I wouldn't recognize him on the street. I'm not sure I can trust him. You know, Bill, let's talk a little bit about, I want to talk about your book before we run out of time. The book, Killing Crazy Horse. So I start reading it, and I'm looking and I'm hearing there's a group of Indians, and you point out the use of Indians is not pejorative, it's not racist, it's what was the way people were describing Native Americans for many, many years. But then there's this new fort that pops up, and it's white people, slaves, and Indians within the fort, and another group of Indians is coming. This feels to me, the slave comes running back in. He's about to get 100 lashes because he had some information that was true. This feels to me like, I don't know, like the media right now.
No, I'm telling you the truth. I'm not telling you that the brutal guy at Fort Mims in Alabama who was going to beat that slave, who, by the way, the Indians subsequently killed, all right? I'm not telling you anything other than this is what he did. I'm not saying that America is a horrible nation because there are some bad people in it. And that's what the far left is doing. They're basically saying because there was historical injustice, and by the way, every country on the planet has had historical injustice, every single one, all right? I'm saying this is what happened. All right. So you, the reader of Killing Crazy Horse, you can make up your own mind about the Indian Wars. Who were the noble people? Who were the good presidents? Who were the bad presidents? Who were the good Indian chiefs? Who were the bad Native American leaders? That's what I do. I present history in a factual way. I don't try to spin it one way or the other. Because to do that, I'd be a fraud.
And no hearsay in any of the Killing series.
No anonymous source.
O'Reilly, good job, by the way, using, good job with Makeda, dedicating the book to Makeda. What a great person. She's been your assistant for 20-something years. Solid person.
Well, I'm glad you like the book, Bolling, and I'm glad you're actually reading the book because that keeps you away from drinking heavily. So keep reading that book.
Bill O'Reilly, everybody. No Spin News on the first. And also, you can catch that on Stir, one of the digital platforms owned by Sinclair. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Talk soon.